Today we're going to be talking about two different homicides. One's going to be justifiable and excusable. So we're going to start off with justifiable. This is going to be under the crime playlist. It's going to be right up here. If you want to watch the rest of them, click up here. All right, let's start this off. 97-315 homicide, justifiable homicide, use of defensive force, duty to retreat. 1. The killing of a human being by the act, procurement, or omission of another shall be justifiable in the following cases. 1A. When committed by public officers or those acting by their aid and assistance in obedience to any judgment of a competent court. 1B. When necessarily committed by public officers or those acting by their command in their aid and assistance and overcome actual resistance to the execution of some legal process or to the discharge of any other legal duty. 1C. When necessarily committed by public officers or those acting by their command in their aid and assistance in retaking any felon who has been rescued or has escaped. 1D. When necessarily committed by public officers or those acting by their command and their aid and assistance in arresting any felon fleeing from justice. 1E. When committed by any person resisting any attempt unlawfully to kill such person or to commit any felony upon him or upon or in any dwelling, in any occupied vehicle, in any place of business, in any place of employment, or in the immediate premises thereof in which such person shall be. 1F. When committed in the lawful defense of one's own person or any other human being, where there shall be reasonable grounds to apprehend a design to commit a felony or to do some great personal injury, and there shall be imminent danger of such design being accomplished. 1G. When necessarily committed and attempted by lawful ways and means to apprehend any person for any felony committed. 1H. When necessarily committed in lawfully suppressing any riot or in lawfully keeping and preserving the peace. And 1I. When necessarily committed in the performance of a duty as a member of a church or place of worship security program as described in section 45(9)(171. It's justifiable if it was done in any legal lawful way. That does not give anybody any rights to go out there and kill somebody and say, oh, well, I was doing it in this case or that case. It has to be a lawful reason. You have to feel like you're in danger. 2A. As used in subsection 1C and D of this section, the term when necessarily committed means that a public officer or a person acting by or at the officer's command, aid, or assistance is authorized to use such force as necessary in securing and detaining the felon offender, overcoming the offender's resistance, preventing the offender's escape, recapturing the offender if the offender escapes, or in protecting himself or others from bodily harm, but such officer or person shall not be authorized to resort to deadly or dangerous means when to do so would be unreasonable under the circumstances. The public officer or persons acting by or at the officer's command may act upon a reasonable apprehension of the surrounding circumstances. However, such officer or person shall not use excessive force or force that is greater than reasonably necessary in securing and detaining the offender, overcoming the offender's resistance, preventing the offender's escape, recapturing the order of the offender's escape, or in protecting himself or others from bodily harm. Subsection 2B. As used in subsection 1C and D of this section, the term felon shall include an offender who has been convicted of a felony and shall also include an offender who is in custody or whose custody is being sought on a charge or for an offense which is punishable upon conviction by death or confinement in the penitentiary. 2C. As used in subsection 1E and 3 of this section, dwelling means a building or convenience of any kind that has a roof over it, whether the building or convenience is temporary or permanent, mobile or immobile, including a tent that is designed to be occupied by people lodging therein at night, including any attached porch. Anything with a roof considered dwelling. Subsection 3. A person who uses defensive force shall be presumed to have reasonable fear, imminent death, or great bodily harm, or the commission of a felony upon him or another, or upon his dwelling, or against a vehicle which he was occupying or against a business or place of employment or the immediate premises of such building or place of employment, and the person against whom the defensive force was used was in the process of unlawfully and forcibly entering, or had unlawfully and forcibly entered a dwelling, occupied vehicle, business, place of employment, or the immediate premises thereof, or if that person had unlawfully removed or was attempting to unlawfully remove another against the other person's will from the dwelling, occupied vehicle, business, place of employment, or the immediate premises thereof, the person who used defensive force knew or had reason to believe that the forcible entry or unlawful and forcible act was occurring or had occurred. This presumption shall not apply if the person against whom defensive force was used has a right to be in or is a lawful resident or owner of the dwelling, vehicle, business, place of employment, or the immediate premises thereof, or is the lawful resident of or owner of the dwelling, vehicle, business, place of employment, or the immediate premises thereof, or if the person using defensive force is engaged in unlawful activity, or if the person is a law enforcement officer engaged in the performance of his official duties. Subsection 4. A person who is not the initial aggressor and is not engaged in unlawful activity shall have no duty to retreat before using deadly force under subsection 1E or F of this section if the person is in a place where the person has a right to be, and no finder of fact shall be permitted to consider the person's failure to retreat as evidence that the person's use of force was unnecessary, excessive, or unreasonable. 5A. The presumption contained in subsection 3 of this section shall apply in civil cases in which self-defense or defense of another is claimed as a defense. 5B. The court shall award reasonable attorney fees, court costs, compensation for loss of income, and all expenses incurred by the defendant in defense in any civil action brought upon a plaintiff, and the court finds that the defendant acted in accordance with subsection 1E or F of this section. A defendant who has previously been adjudicated not guilty or of any crime by reason of subsection 1E or F of this section shall be immune from any civil action for damages arising from the same conduct. We're going to throw this one in there. 97-317, homicide, excusable homicide. The killing of any human being by the act, procurement, or omission of another shall be excusable. 1A. When committed by accident and misfortune in doing any lawful act by lawful means, which usually in ordinary caution and without any unlawful intent. B. When committed by accident and misfortune in the heat of passion upon any sudden and sufficient provocation. C. When committed upon any sudden combat without undue advantage being taken and without any dangerous weapons being used, and not done in a cruel or unusual manner. Excusable and justifiable is two different things. All right, smash the like button, subscribe, continue watching. Let's keep this channel going. I will be back next week at Monday at 3 p.m. with more.